So, hello everybody. Welcome to Sex Talks with Diana. In today's episode, we will be talking with Elle McPherson. She is a certified erotic blueprint coach, as well as a certified accelerated evolution coach, an international federation certified life coach, and RYT 200 Kripalu yoga teacher. Through her coaching and teaching, Ellie's mission is to empower people to find freedom in owning their authentic erotic selves. So, welcome, Ellie. It's a pleasure to have you here. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me. So there's the five love languages is a concept by, I think his name is Gary Chapman. So it's the idea of, I think the five love languages are physical affection, words of appreciation, gifts,
Quality time.
Quality time. Yeah. So the idea being, right, if we're in a partnership, whether that's romantic or we're just friends, maybe I express my care for you by wanting to spend time with you. But your way of doing that is by giving me gifts. If gifts don't mean anything to me, I'm not reading that and seeing that that's what you're doing for me. And that could lead to miscommunication, thinking that this person doesn't care about me. So that's how that concept works in terms of love languages. And the erotic blueprints, there are five erotic blueprints. They are energetic, sensual, sexual, kinky, and shapeshifter. So you can think of those as five ways that people respond to affection, physical affection, or turn on. It doesn't always have to be physical. So similarly, if we were in a relationship and the way that I get turned on is sensual, right? Through snuggles and kisses and physical proximity. But let's say I'm with somebody whose primary blueprint type is more energetic. They're more turned on by space and tease and anticipation. If we don't see that difference in each other, we might get resentful of each other. We might have miscommunications. We might think that we don't have a good sex life. And it may just be that we're speaking two different languages. Like you're speaking German, I'm speaking French. And when we can see what's going on, the reality of it, we can learn a little bit about each other's languages if we care about each other and meet each other in a place that satisfies both of us.
So what do you think it is that sexuality always somehow is hidden from all these realities of wellness in general?
That is a good question. So many reasons. I think because it's hard to talk about. I mean, even when in conversation, I'll talk to someone I just met and I'll tell them I'm a coach on sexuality. And sometimes I just even get like blank stares or people say, sex is hard. It's hard to talk about, right? You have to be brave to talk about it. And we live in a culture now where even if you do talk about it, there's a lot of censorship, right? It's not a welcoming environment to talk about this stuff. It's hard. It's vulnerable. It's really vulnerable. There's a lot of shame around it from the media, from culture, from religion. We've all picked up a lot of messaging that says either don't talk about it, just pretend that it doesn't exist, even though it's something everybody does. Or if you do talk about it, then we'll shame that person. So I think it's a tricky topic in a lot of ways.
You've said the journey of the erotic blueprints starts with determining your sexuality stage and blueprint. So what do you exactly mean by sexuality stage in this case?
So what I'm referring to in that quote is that the idea of your core erotic blueprint, that there's three components to it. And this is not something that's set in time. It's sort of knowing where you are at any moment in time. So in anyone's core erotic blueprint, they have their stage, which I'll explain in a second, their type, which I briefly covered the 5 types. And then there's this third piece, which is around your shadows and obstacles, which for everybody is going to be different at some point in their lives. So kind of having that snapshot in time of where you are with regards to those 3 elements is a really great place to start. So the idea of your sexuality stage is to really give people permission to be okay with wherever they are in terms of their sexuality. So that's a bigger concept in the whole idea of the blueprints. It's about permission to be who you are, wherever you are in that moment, because so many of us have picked up messaging along the way regarding sexuality that something about us is wrong or broken or shameful. So it's really about just saying wherever you are, whoever you are, is perfectly normal and fine and good. So these are kind of flavors, if you will, of sexuality. And also this idea that each of us have a primary blueprint type, which is our primary pathway to turn on. So you might resonate with what I'm saying. But it's also, while there's a primary, each of us is going to have, our own unique makeup of like a little bit of that. Oh, but I also relate to that. So it's not like you are just this one thing. So the sensual blueprint type, or sorry, I'll start with the energetic. The energetic blueprint type is the type that's turned on by this idea of space and tease and anticipation. So if someone's energetic, if you come into their space too quickly, that is going to be, they're going to pull back, right? They need time. They get turned on by like the excitement of the waiting and the desire and the magnetic attraction to eventually become close with somebody. So for them, it's more the energetic quality of connection and less about the physical piece. So, and there's a superpower and kind of a shadow side to each of these that I'll cover in my class. The sensual blueprint type is turned on by the senses. So it's like texture, touch, taste, sound, music. It's that whole environmental piece of it. So they're going to be turned on by snuggles and closeness and music and the way the sheets feel and the lighting and the whole environment, right? It's really the sensory experience. Then the sexual blueprint type is kind of what we think of when we think of porn. The sexual blueprint type is turned on by nudity, genitalia, and they tend to be very climax oriented and goal oriented. The kinky blueprint type is turned on by taboo. And when I say taboo, that's whatever is taboo for you, which might be very different than what's taboo for me. Within that world of kink, there are sort of two main flavors. One is the psychological side of kink, which is generally about like power dynamics, playing and magnet and polarizing or increasing the magnitude between, like, let's say light and dark, giving and receiving, dominant, submissive, that whole very psychological piece. There's also the more physical piece in the kink world, which could be more around like physical restraint, let's say, like, being tied up or spanking or that kind of thing, or intense sensation like scratching or spanking. So within that world, there's a lot of possibility for fantasy and role playing. And then the shapeshifter is kind of all of the above. It's like the shapeshifter is a little bit of all of that, turned on by everything, having a huge capacity for pleasure. There's that person who's always like, wait, was that it?
What are the issues that you see most people facing when they come to you for coaching on the blueprints or on sexuality in general?
So I like to think of it less as like issues that people come with and more that people see possibility. So coming from it more of like a place of what's possible. So I think a lot of people might get to a place in their sexuality where they're like, really? Like, is this all there is, right? Maybe they've just been having pretty vanilla sex for most of their lives. And they hear about the blueprints and they're like, oh, it makes so much sense that this is who I am. And maybe this is why relationships or experiences I've had in the past haven't been as fulfilling as I have a sense that they could be. With couples, usually it's more around this idea of incompatibility, right? Like two people who love each other, but maybe they feel like their desire is mismatched. Like one person has more desire than the other, or one person is wanting to, especially if people are in a monogamous relationship. So, their ability to explore outside the relationship is limited. They might have been together for 10 years and one person feels like, I have this piece of me that I don't get to express because we've been together 10 years and our relationship has and our sex life has fell into a bit of a routine. And there's this piece of me that, wants to be more, explore different sides of me that I don't feel permission. So that's where the idea of the blueprints can come in and say, we all have these pieces of ourselves. They're all safe to explore, and teaching people what those different pieces of themselves are, how safe ways to like explore them together, so that people can feel like all sides of themselves are being met and seen by their partner. Honestly, I think it's more like my coaching and all this work has influenced my yoga practice more.
Okay.
Because I've done yoga now for 20 something years, and it used to be my stress relief, and it still is my stress relief, but it's changed because when I lived in DC and I was stressed about work and stuff, I would go for a run or I would do yoga trying to get out of my head, right, and into my body. But what ended up happening was I would be at yoga and I'd be, going through the motions, but I would be stuck in my head the whole time. So like my body was doing yoga, but really my mind was still ruminating about whatever was going on at work.
Okay.
And I really hadn't made that mind-body connection. So when I learned about the blueprints And my primary type is sensual. So the sensual has the shadow of being stuck in their head a lot, but also the superpower of being able to be really in their body. So when I learned that there was that kind of like almost hypocrisy to it, it made so much sense for me. And so it's really changed the way I practice yoga now. I go way slower than I used to. So I've learned that for me to get out of my head into my body, I have to really slow down so I can feel things. Really slow down and feel things. And before I didn't know how to do that. So when I practice yoga now, I put on music. I like to have this like heat with the sun or a space heater or a fire. I have essential oils. Like I bring in all the elements. I go really slow, and I don't even know if I call it yoga anymore. It's kind of like yoga inspired movement. And it's just about learning how to feel, right? So sometimes I'll like dance if I feel like moving, or I'll move my body in whatever way that feels good. Or I'll think about, okay, how could I make this feel even better? Or I'll touch myself a lot. I'll do a lot of massage, right? So it's all about getting into my body where I have a lot of capacity for pleasure and to like let the emotions come out. Sometimes I'll just start crying. I don't know why, but something needed to come out. But before it was all stuck in my head. So it's in that way that learning about the blueprints has really helped me get into my body so that my yoga practice actually becomes what yoga is supposed to be about, which is about being in the present moment, about feeling what is real and present for me in that moment. And I would say that then in turn comes back to like my sexuality and just how I approach life, about being far more centered and calm, and my nervous system is more resilient, so that in terms of sex, right? I know what feels good in my body. I feel comfortable asking for it because I'm there and I know. And just in terms of life, I'm much more resourced. So when something happens where in the past maybe I would have like gotten triggered or angry or said something I didn't want to right away, I have that resourcedness in my body to pause for a moment and be like, okay, I'm noticing that I'm getting a little flustered. I noticed that I'm feeling hot in my chest. Like, what's going on here? Okay, I'm angry. Okay, how do I want to respond? And I have that time and space to show up the way I want to, as opposed to just getting mad and snapping.
Ellie, thank you so much for taking all this time with us. Last question I have for you is, if anybody wishes to book a coaching session with you, where should they go? How do they find you?
They can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Beyond the Itinerary. And if you go to my link tree, or my link in bio on my my Instagram bio, Beyond the Itinerary, you go to my link in bio, I have links to these classes I teach for My Sexual Biography. You can book a discovery consultation with me, and you can hop on the phone or hop on Zoom and see where you're at and where you want to go and how I might help you get there.
Okay. So there you have it, Ellie, for all of you people. Thank you so much for being here with us. Yeah. I hope we'll see you in class, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.